So, well, hey, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So let's begin our journey into your work by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was really going into new phases. It was a big deal. How did you ultimately make it through that very strange time, and how has it reverberated into what you do today?
Okay. So when that hit, I would say my business was doing well because I had already had a Zoom coaching business internationally. So I had already left the brick and mortar yoga studio. And that was a business instinct that I had. I was always a forward thinker. And so Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania was not up on Zoom. I
Yeah.
had to teach a lot of clients how to use Zoom, how to get on Zoom. So I was ahead of the game as far as that sort of situation. Because I'm in the holistic alternative health field, my business tripled. People were really reaching out for outside the box, not only solutions, but I think I was attracting in the person that was questioning everything online. You
Yeah.
know, they weren't taking the fear based information. They knew something was off, which was great. That type of person that could do critical thinking, that type of person that could say, it's strange that liquor stores can stay open, but gyms can close. You know, what's going on here? And I had already sort of, being a healer, being somebody that works with trauma outside the box with sciences most people haven't even heard of even yet. Um, I had seen a lot of corruption, unfortunately. You know, I'd worked in an alternative mental health clinic that was harassed by the IRS at some point in 2011. And so I'd seen a lot of things, and I'd sort of not been online for many years because of it. I think now we have a lot going on online, and that's the freedom of having a voice, like having me on today, which I'm truly grateful for.
Yeah.
So I was sort of the messenger of, well, you might want to try a little bit of this. Oh, you might want to try a little bit of that. You know, when you used to live in the forest, you might want to try a little bit of superfoods here, a little bit of herb. We've got some medical grade water. You might want to meditate. You might want to do, I was a little bit of that. So my business tripled,
Yeah.
but the people around me collapsed because they were not prepared in many ways of health education and business education. So I saw some brick and mortar businesses that closed that broke my heart, that suffered financially. Um, I think the most heartbreaking situation of those 5 years was the war that families had of arguments of politics. I think that if we can step back at this moment in time, I think we need to really reevaluate what a family is, what a debate is, what a respect to disagree is, what love is. We have to ask these hard questions because what I saw was family systems broken, and over whose opinion,
Yeah.
whose research. Everybody wants to have the most research in the room. I get that. But at some point, we also have to say, what is love? What are we doing? How are we going to work together through this so-called, you could describe it as a war? Because there was war zones in families, right? People stopped talking to each other. That to me was the most disheartening
Yeah.
thing. And I think we have to question. I question. You always want to ask questions. Like when clients come to me, ask me questions. You don't have to agree with everything I say. If you don't like something in the coaching room, you better tell me. I want independent thinkers as we're healing. Part of being a victim is not having an independent voice, right? You were suppressed. And so for me, I think the question at this moment, reflecting, because we should reflect on history. That's why it's such a great, brilliant question you ask in the beginning of your um, podcast is we should all be reflecting on this. So it's a brilliant question. Is how do we not repeat it?
Yep.
And how do we heal from it? How do we grow from it? How can we change from it? How can it bring us back together tighter? How can we not let somebody on the outside destroy our family units? I think there's just a lot. We're going to need to do a lot of questioning and coming together in collaboration, whatever field you're in, whether you're in business or health, your family, to really restructure. So that's what I feel the gift was,
Yeah.
is it's kind of like healing trauma. It's not fun. You get to the roots, it gets really messy. And sometimes it's like, oh my God, everything's a mess. And then it comes together like I'm healed now. Like my body's stronger than it was when I was in New York City in my 20s dancing. How can that be?
Yeah.
I'm going to be 53.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem possible. Well, it is possible. So how do we get from all this messiness and disagreements, and how do we not give over our power to the screen,
Yeah.
whether it's television, social media? How do we question things instead of assuming, even me, that everything I'm saying is truth, accurate? Do you agree? Do you disagree? But when we're sick or desperate or in fear, we trust too soon. And I did this a lot.
Yep.
And it's not good. So I had to learn the hard way by being around psychopaths in the workplace to walk away and go, why did I think that was normal? Why did I agree with that? And it's a humbling experience. You know, it's like, oh, okay. So I've done a lot of my own healing work, within that. So, does that resonate with you? Anything I said?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder I've wondered, so my son's on the spectrum, and I remember after COVID happened, he wanted to know what happened. And I don't want to get too political here, but I really wonder if we had really good leadership, if there would be a lot of things that mentally wouldn't have gone off the rails. I think there was a
Oh, I
lot of,
agree.
you know what I'm saying? There were so many things that got totally sideways, and America is a very strange place of idolizing things that really didn't work to begin with. And I believe that we're entering a template zone of what we will never do again and what we never want to see happen again, but we haven't gotten to that point. It's almost like being a parent and looking at the way that you parented. It takes you a long time to get out of the fog of war, to understand who you are, to understand what your role is, and to actually do something that requires empathy instead of selfish uh, edification. And I think that's where we're at in this country. And of course, too, there's a lot of factors that go into that. But the other thing that really troubles me is cancel culture has had a really good thing that's been a part of like taking down people that have done wrong things. But I think we are so into entertainment tonight, television, that we're so into the downfall. It's almost something that we worship. And if we got to get out of that. We got to get into a more existential mode of waiting for Godot and then relishing what we've done to a certain degree. And it's just, we're just so lost in the haze of all of that.
I have so much to say on that. During my father passed away in 2022, which I write about in my book series, book 2, because I was really disturbed by what happened, having all the like sort of healing medical information that I had. I had no control over his situation because my mom and I's situation, but it was a great learning tool for me. Once he passed away, I started to hear his voice and started to tune into more telepathic, intuitive, magical gifts that I didn't even really, I knew I was a little bit psychic, but, didn't really play into that. And that's when he started to help me. You have a lot of generational trauma. These are the things you have to do. And I started to follow his voice. So ironically, he's really the reason why I'm fully healed. I started tapping into Mr. Rogers. Never watched him growing up. We didn't have, he wasn't on a television set. My mom was obsessed with movie stars, soap operas, which also influenced her sort of dysfunctional reality in everyday life because she was my predator abuser in the household. So it's interesting. I didn't study Mr. Rogers till after my New York days, came back to Pittsburgh, was teaching, and then was fascinated with the imprint he held, started studying him. And so he started coming in to help me heal my inner child. Now, whether people believe that or not, I don't really care. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But what I will say is I'm a lot like him and did not know it in a lot of ways because he was very diligent about protecting the child online. And he was always making phone calls about things that were on television, trying to say, hey, can you think of this in another way? Can you think of this? And he was just and he turned down $1 million deals because he didn't want to change his persona or his psychology of how he was teaching children. And so I ended up doing a lot of reading and studying with him. When we think of COVID in like sort of the whole last 5 years, I worked 8 years. So I was an independent contractor.
Yeah.
So I had a private trauma coaching, people hiring me all over, the world. And then I would go into charter schools, disabled schools where there's disruption. And I talk about this in my book one coming out, and how I go in and use a healing tool like sound frequency to change the energy or something that's happening. And it always works, even though everybody is like sort of in opposition. I'm the fixer. And I was hired 8 years into a senior homes, and I would go in and teach a brain protocol that if you did 12 minutes every day reverses memory loss. Now, why this isn't in every senior home is shocking. Yeah. And then I would do different programs with senior homes. Well, I lost my job. Not that it was a great paying job. I was making tons more money with selling stuff and coaching, but because I wasn't going to do the medical protocol to stay in the building. And that was just a choice. And it was shocking to me because I'm so health conscious. Here I have water filters that are the best in the world. I eat superfoods, I exercise, I meditate, but yet I'm going to somehow hinder my seniors who never got the flu. My classes never got the flu. They were stronger. They were reversing their memory loss. But I had nobody documenting this because as a small business owner, I don't have the grant funds that corporations have, and big pharma has tons of money. They're in there all day long selling pills. Just as a fact, I have people who left the industry, still in the industry. It is what it is. So I was really scared and disappointed at all the deaths and decretion of the seniors, which is the same example of our children. Yep. They're two different vulnerable areas of our population that we should be protective of, but I work really well with both of them. And really disappointed. I tried to present, can I do Zoom classes to have them sit in chairs and continue to do, and that just never manifested. And they were, stuck in a room all day staring at what? Staring at fear-based, you're going to die, you're going to die. And, you hear it enough, you think you're going to die. Yep. It's like, you know what I mean? So that's an example of how is this going to affect our children? Well, it's the same thing. They've been deeply traumatized in some way, shape, or form, as we have too. And if we can't face that, and really do the things that we need to do in our businesses to say, maybe our employees need some different types of medical meditations now, or maybe our children I think children need medical meditations in the school classroom, and things to sort of, they are deeply affected by this. And when I walk around, because I'm always talking, I always want to know what's going on in my community. Doesn't matter. The children, the feedback I get so far from the children are they're very, very unhappy. They don't know how to play. They don't know how to go into the forest and play anymore. Like they literally don't know how to do that. Yep. They don't have an imagination, get the sticks and start playing. They actually don't really want to be on the screen all day. And we're forcing them to be on a screen all day long. Yep. And if I'm like the Mr. Rogers messenger today, statistically, having your children go online in places you don't know, you could have a psychopath sending them energy like that. I would be really, really diligent about where your child is going online. Yeah. And that might not be popular to them because all the other kids are online all day long. But do you want a healthy child, or do you want a child that's at risk of being affected by a narcissist psychopath online teaching you something? Yep. Or getting you into a program, and it only takes about 5 minutes.
Yep. Let me ask you this. I want to boil down exactly what you do as a spiritual leader. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day, and one of the kids in the room is like, hey, what do you do for a living? How would you answer that child today?
Let's play. What do I do for a living? Yeah. I wake people up. So when people come in the room, they wake up to things they didn't even know they were masked. And I do that with what I call medical meditations, finger things, sounds, universal sounds. So it's not affirmations, because affirmations can be distorted. If you're in a household where your mom's telling you she loves you, but then she's hitting you, then those words don't mean anything. So affirmations don't mean sometimes anything to people who have those types of dyslexia things. So medical meditations, pulling from a library of Sanskrit, kids love it. Kids feel better. They don't need explanation of it. I remember doing 4 and 5-year-olds medical meditations in a program. They wanted to teach their parents,
Yeah.
and their parents were out to lunch.
Yeah.
Kids know what, just like animals. So I water education, kids love that. Let's put some water and let's put some pH and ORP and let's test it and let's see what has forever chemicals in it and what doesn't have forever chemicals in it. And cats know what water has more of a antioxidant properties than we do at this point. Why do cats know and we don't? Why are they so much more in tune? So animals and how animals can be spirit guides. I teach people, whether they're kids or grown-ups, that when you're in the park and you're sitting there and all of a sudden a raccoon comes by and it stares at you, that raccoons symbolize take off the mask.
Yeah.
What's the mask? What are you wearing? What are you hiding behind? What are you afraid to say? So it's a little shamanism-y as the healer, that everything around you can be a really intricate teacher if you open the lens and you're really like, I want to be a superhuman. Like that's how I ended up doing my healing process. Is I wanted to get past the pain and rewire my body. So my bone structures changed. I anti-aged. It's cool.
Yeah.
Healing's cool. That's what I want. I want to inspire people in the room that, yeah, you're going to cry and you're going to feel like crap for a day, but you're also going to become something that your generational lineage could not become.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool? So instead of seeing it on a movie, you could be the movie.
So what did you want to be at 12? What was your dream life?
Well, I was severely brain damaged. You got to remember, I had gone through, so at 8 years old, my mother switched mental states, began choking me almost to death. So I lived in a household of severe fear, and I had severe brain damage, like off the charts. And that's what makes me really sort of interesting that scientists and doctors hire me with no medical degree. You know what I mean? So I've gone the road less traveled. So I would say at 12 years old, I just wanted to be in an environment where people were happy and nice and real and honest. Because my parents were one thing behind closed doors. And when you saw them socially, you thought they were the greatest couple in the world. They were incredible dancers. They socially danced every weekend. But behind closed doors, they were at war with themselves, which made them at war with each other, which made me go, oh my gosh, I'm confused.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Sure.
So it's interesting because I became a professional tap dancer because I tap danced because I wasn't allowed to talk really in my household. My tap shoes were my first voice. And in the last couple months, and you and a lot of other people graciously allowing me to use my voice is now really what my is healing my heart and is healing my soul. So I really thank you for this opportunity to use my voice.
You bet. So let me ask you this. Who has been that inspiration for you to get your footing, define your voice, to help others? Who has been that person that's helped you evolve in your life?
One is mystical. I would say the Divine Mother.
Yeah.
And that has led me through a lot of roads to get me to this place. So listening to that intuition is probably been the game changer for me. A physical person, I would say back in my later 20s in the jazz clubs, Jimmy Slyde, he was a tap legend. He saw me in the audience. I was the only white woman in the audience. And he said, bring your tap shoes next time. And I did. And he brought me up on stage, didn't even know if I could do shuffle ball change. That's kind of crazy, when you think about it. Professional band, you're on stage. I went up and that activated my soul. Yep. It activated my connection with him. I learned now in the last couple of years, as I was healing generational trauma, that my maternal grandmother, we never knew who her original parents were, that I'm half Black, and that I think Jimmy Slyde knew that. I think he's probably a part of my bloodline. I don't have any factual evidence on that, but I channel him as well. But 25, 30 years ago, he took a chance, brought me on stage. And it wasn't just tapping on stage with the legends after that. It was the offstage conversations because I was, in a sense, so distraught and troubled that having higher conscious men not see me as a sex object, but see me as an artist, as a soul, as an individual, as a woman that had something to say. They saw my anger, they saw my skill set, and they nurtured it for free. It wasn't a coaching program. They spent time with me and they cared. And that lived on till now. So a lot of my keynotes, I talk about Jimmy Slyde and the impact that one higher divine conscious man can have.
Yep.
And it's a big deal because in book 2, I talk about being sexually assaulted in the workplace, throughout the journey. So yeah, he's definitely very special to my heart.
A lot of those older jazz cats are like swamis to me. They remind me of like Jedis and the whole Star Wars lexicon. They're in Cloud City and they hum at a different vibration. Because when I get off the phone with legends, like I've talked to Sonny Rollins, Randy Weston, Dr. Lonnie Smith was unreal. Like when I got off, I was like, oh wow. Like you realize that we're all humans, but it all depends on how you take care of your soul and your spirituality and your emotional growth and your empathy and all these things. And it just kind of raises you up and it just naturally emits out of you. David Amram was the same way. Like David Amram is a beacon of light in a way that's unbelievable. Are you familiar with David Amram?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was just kind of talking about running around with Kerouac and all of the cats back in the day and all these stories. And it's just this natural light, this exuberance of life that is just so anterior to what we process as heroic in our modern American lexicon. It's just so weird. So anyway, yeah, it really is that one moment that someone gives you the stage and they see through all of that, all of the fog, and they're the headlight that you need in that dark room. And when you get it, you grab it. So I'm curious, with all of the trauma that you've gone through in your life, being somebody that helps give people a spiritual light, helps them give positivity in their life, how do you protect yourself and then dole out the wisdom and the healing that you can to help people get to that place?
Mm. Wow, that is a very important question that I have been focusing on recently, protection, because I did not protect myself. And when my dad died, that was one of the teachings he gave me. He didn't protect me in physical life at all. He abandoned me. And he taught the family to abandon me in essence. So had a lot of anger to work out with him. And I teach people in meditations too. You can work that out with your ancestor on the other side. And sometimes it works out better. It's strange
Yep.
because I argued with him at first. I didn't want him in my radar. And then he kept showing up and we had to work a lot out. But it was all about protection because as a healer, empath, and a sweet soul that I am, I mean, I can be tough. You got to be tough to heal what I've healed and
Yeah.
faced, but I am sweet at the core. I think a lot of women have all this armor on them because they're not allowed to be sweet
Yep.
anymore in a society that has been generationally abusing them forever. So for me, he had to show me that I had really, I would say, dangerous people around me, sort of taking a lot of my ideas and using my name without giving me credit and sort of sucking me dry energetically, psychically attacking me, learning how energy matters. If you have a thought, Jedi thought, like if somebody has negative thoughts and they're your business partner, and that correlated with my mom, so there was a lot of healing in the last 2 years with protection, a lot of healing and understanding my parents' past lives. I would say now I don't work as much. I'm very particular about my clients. And specifically, my goal is to work more with leaders to implement programming, whether we implement programming in a new type of school system, senior system, like that's my sort of forte moving forward. So I'm very particular about that. I'm even particular about how much I go online.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I'll do these interviews, I'll post them, I'll do a few little networking. But if I'm in a networking group and I feel a lot of negative energy, I notate it and I don't go back. I have to protect. And then in the evenings, I have my own ritual of self-care. One of the things is I was programmed at one point to overgive all the time. So I depleted myself and didn't do my self-care. So the greatest message, whether you're a healer, a business owner, whoever, construction worker, you got to give back to yourself. And whatever that looks like, meditation class, floating center, But I think people should start investing more in having it in their house.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm also like sort of working on a blueprint for a sort of different type of house that has a lot of healing tools in it already so that our home can be a healing center. Yeah, protection is key right now.
It's interesting you talk about writing, and I've written about my life before. That's a hard thing to do when you have to really like lift up these boulders that you thought you were done with and see what was underneath it, or the rug, so to speak. So, has that process for you of actually etching words on the page, figuring your life out and going through that, in that tumult, have you found peace? Have you found a cathartic avenue that you were looking for?
Yes, I found that. So I wrote a book about 12 years ago on my life, Victim to Victory, Healing Generational Abuse Through the Bloodline, and it's taken off the market. I took it off the market the day after my dad died because he said, take it off the market. And I wasn't really promoting it. When I wrote it back then, I was really, really sick.
Yeah.
I actually couldn't walk at the time. And I was really afraid of retaliation with my family. So I kind of hid. I still had a lot of shame over a lot of things, but it was a tool to get me the clients.
Yeah.
So people randomly found it, which is sort of the God, the universe. And that's how I got the scientists and the doctors. And I started to become a mad scientist of like, oh, this doesn't really work. And how do we get trauma out? And, so that was a tool. Then I took it off the market. And then I wrote this next book that's coming out in 2 months with my dad on the other side. And he said, let's write this from a healed child's point of view,
Yeah.
which means I know database from past lives of my mom and dad and sort of the things that were playing out. But let's write it in a toolkit. So basically, you have a chapter of something of my story. Chapter one's obviously the family system. But then you have a medical meditation and you have spiritual and psychological questions, like a lot of them after each chapter that you can do on your own or you can do with your own therapist or coach that you trust.
Yeah.
And I did this. I actually have 3 books. The first book deals with self-development. The second book deals with work development. So I deal with my work situations. I write out questions. I write out what I learned, what I did, what I need to do. And the third book deals with love development. So I like it because it's a manual too. And it also allows me to go into nonprofits and stuff and do the storytelling. But then at the same time, we could go through some of those questions and meditations and talk about how are you going to work with your clients and how are you. So that was all. So book 1 was with my dad.
Yep.
Book 2 was with Jimmy Slyde.
Yep.
And book 3 was with Mr. Rogers.
I love it. I read a book at the beginning of the year when all of this new stuff started at the beginning of the year. There was so much uncertainty. And I read a book someone wrote on Fred and about who he was on camera was who he was off camera. And all of
Mm-hmm.
these wonderful vignettes of him coming in and we've seen all the speeches at awards ceremonies and in front of Congress and it's all evident. But what a wonderful antidote he is to what we're living through today. So let me ask you this. Of everything that you've accomplished, and more importantly, how you've evolved from being at a place where you had serious physical harm that could have led to your emotional demise, and to be right now healthy and wise, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
I'm ultimately the proudest of in the last couple of years that I walked away from a lot of people and said no more. That my space matters. That I'm proud that I loved myself enough to take some time off work and do my own healing programs. I love myself enough to know that um, I don't need anybody to say anything about who I am, that I know who I am.
Yeah.
Took me a long time to find that peace because I am driven and I am passionate, but at the same time, I got to make sure I'm passionate about me.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. So at the end of the day, everyone out there is going to have a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that gets your books, everyone that knows you in different capacities, but you're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are? What are you projecting to the world?
That I'm really unconditional love, that I've seen the dark of the evil. And even in those situations that I mentioned in book 2, I give these people 3, 4, 5, 6 chances to do the right thing, but they choose not to. And that's their choice. So they have to deal with the consequences of their life, but they cannot be in my life and I cannot accept their behavioral patterns. I believe in karma, cause, laws, and effect. So I want to teach that to our children because I think the on screen hasn't taught it enough. When we talk about protection, we've seen predators get away over and over and over again. They don't need to heal. They don't need to feel the pain. Victims have been doing all the work and healing their pain. It's now we need I just asked for equality in the balance of that. So I think the truth is that, yeah, I'm a good soul. I'm a loving soul, but I'm going to protect those that are weak, those that have been violated. And I'm going to say, if you choose to violate someone, then you choose to take the consequences of that too.
Yeah, that's definitely the karmic wheel. So if anyone wants to get your latest book, previous books, hire you, reach out, questions, any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
My website, you know, heatherannferri.com. It's my full name, www.heatherferri.com. You can also, some people message me on Facebook, some people message me on LinkedIn. My email is youmatter, which I love, youmatter108 @gmail.com. But yeah, I would say my website, Explore, you can download the first chapter of the book that's going to be coming out. I have an ebook. And basically, when you email me, just write what you're looking for, because I do a couple lanes. Oh, I'm looking for a speaker. Oh, I'm looking for a coach. Oh, I'm not sure if just kind of be detailed so I know what's going on.
So let's end this on a good note. What's the best jazz show you've seen live? Like
It's a
one that
hard
like
one.
moved you, that like shook your foundation, whether it was early on or just unexpectedly.
Well, I'm going to be biased
Yeah.
because I worked with Sean Jones on a show. I don't know if
Oh
you know
wow.
that.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I worked with Sean Jones. We did Cotton Club in Pittsburgh, PA together.
Wow.
And I just love him as a soul. I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of him. I think he's an incredible human being.
Yep.
And so if you don't know Sean Jones, look him up, see where he's playing in your city and town. He's a good soul. I talk about Mr. Rogers. He's a teacher. He's a healer with his music. He's an incredible person to work with.
He's a titan, yeah. And that's the thing about the jazz community that I don't think people understand. I remember interviewing someone years ago. Her name was Nancy, and she was very tied into the medical empirical world. And I had mentioned how wonderful the jazz community is. And she was like, I've never heard this before. And it's almost kind of like the secret because so many I mean, there's a different girth that goes into that community of creativity because they're not getting in there. Like when you see the award shows that are out there and all these people are making money and all of this acclaim, there's this thing about the jazz community. They know they're entering a world that is genuinely going to be because they want to create. They're not going into it for the accolades and all the money and all of that. There's this different integrity that goes in.
I agree with you. They didn't
Yeah.
sign certain contracts to have that money and fame
No.
and look at me all day long. They
Yeah.
come from a soul.
Yep.
They come from really soulful information, blues, jazz, history, healing. And that's why I'm proud to mention Sean Jones at
Yeah.
this moment because he impacted my life and definitely my city's life. And we need more of that.
Yeah. And
He's a
he is,
good man, by the way. He's a really good man when you
yeah.
sit and eat dinner with him, because I have. He's a really good soul. Like it's not fake.
I'm wondering if I ever did, I got to just check real quick. If I did interview him, I'm thinking I did. I
Oh,
haven't.
you have to.
I
You have
don't.
to.
That's the one thing that's interesting is that he is a big fish. Like he is one of those
Mm-hmm.
people that have broken out and become,
Mm-hmm.
quite a big name. So
Mm-hmm.
I need to reach out. I know his work well. He's been on the show a lot, so I need to reach out. But at any
I
rate,
don't know if I have a direct connection. I know his ex-wife,
yeah.
but shoot my name out there, say I
Okay.
mentioned him on here,
Yeah.
he'll see it and he'll be like, oh,
Yeah. Right. There we go. That'll be the ends. This
it's
has
like
been
this, it's just the intertwined world,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like
It's a small world. This has been absolutely wonderful. I love these stories, the redemptive stories of finding your foothold, finding your voice, getting over, because we all have our story. So it's wonderful that it's parlayed out so well. And I think about that a lot with the spiritual realm. Like sometimes it just doesn't work out down here, and sometimes it has to enter different realms, right? And
Yeah.
healing can always happen. It's never too late. So I love the
Yeah.
fact that you found that resolve and you found that redemption after the fact to kind of go through this weird human ride we have to go through. It's very strange. So at any rate, it's been so great. I'm so glad that our circles arced and we had this moment. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.